So I want to ask you a question. On average, how many hours a week would you say that you spend on your phone, on social media specifically? Well, for me, I'm going to go over the journey that I did for 7 days of quitting social media, and I want to share with you the impacts that I came across, as well as the negatives that were also in the way. And I'm going to go over the 7 days in each day and how each day was a different experience with quitting, and I feel like a withdrawal played a significant role. So I actually want you to do something for me, and after this presentation, I want you to open your phone settings, and I want you to go to your screen time and look at how many hours a day you spend on your phone. I did this, and just in TikTok and Instagram alone, it said a whopping 6 hours a day. And this was personally really alarming for me, because as someone who works full-time and does school full-time, how do I find enough time in a day to do 6 hours on my phone? And then when I eventually tried quitting, I began to notice how it was making that impact. And so part of my addiction with my phone, you could say, was doing endlessly scrolling and distraction, and all of this kind of bundled up into a category of addiction, really. It was a problem that was taking up a great toll in my life, and I think a lot of ours as well, not just me. And I feel like quitting, eventually, I'll get into, was one of the best things I could have done for myself this week. So going over the benefits, the first benefit is it can drastically improve your focus. It's when you remove a distraction out of your life, you're immediately going to be less prone to distraction. My distraction was my phone, so of course I'm going to have less things to be distracted by. A study by Lukos and Abdenyangi, 39.4% of students reported that social media negatively impacted assignment completion. For me as a student, this was essentially my whole problem with social media. It wasn't a super big problem for my work, but more so my school, because I was spending my mornings, my nights, after my shifts, etc., just on my phone, wasting my time. And these results actually indicated that while social media can facilitate academic work, it can predominantly act as a distraction, negatively affecting an academic performance. Like, it's proven that when you have social media involved, you are going to fall behind. It is like a promise that you're going to fall behind. And that during my first and second day, I was checking my phone a lot. I was like fiending for the notifications on my phone, and I would search for TikTok or Instagram first thing in the morning, and I was devastated to see it wasn't there. And the only thing going through my head was, what am I missing? Like, how, like, the influencers that I was following, are they posting anything interesting? Am I, like, at work too, my coworkers, I have a lot of 18 to 20-year-olds as my coworkers, because I'm a CNA, and there's some fresh CNAs there, and a lot of them were saying, oh, have you heard of this trend? Have you heard of this video? Do you want to make a video? And I'm just thinking, like, what are you talking about? I haven't seen that. And going back to work, I noticed that on the second day, it was actually easier for me to get to work, because the first thing I would do when I wake up is go on my phone for an hour, just bed rotting. And upon quitting social media for this experiment, I noticed that I had a better morning, because instead of bed rotting for an hour, I could spend that hour just getting ready for the day, brushing my teeth, eating breakfast, getting dressed, etc. And I felt like I was able to use my time better. And because of this, instead of just waiting till the last 15 minutes before I have to clock in, getting ready to leave for work, I was able to be there more than on time. I was there early and ready for work. And Ting and he found that social media addiction can influence fear of missing out, and also lack of self-control, positively predicting academic procrastination. This basically is just showing that social media can weaken your impulse control, and I found that was a really big struggle of mine with social media. And then over the days from 4 through 7, I was noticing significant improvements on my mental health overall, because it went from just steering away from trying to get by the day of just quitting social media, having that FOMO feeling, to actually realizing that I have more time on my hands. I was able to go out with my good friend Andrew that I haven't been with for a really long time, because me and him both work a lot of our time away, and because he's a full-time manager at somewhere in Roseville, and I'm in Oak Grove, and the drive difference was already super far. And I noticed that without social media, though, instead of spending a couple hours a day on my phone, I was able to go to his house. I was able to go get food with him. I was able to make more interaction with family and friends. And I even went to church with my family for the first time in a really long time, for like a year. And I felt like I was more involved with my family, friends I haven't met in such a long time in that year span. And Coyne and Woodruff did a study that proved that social media detox can improve smartphone and social media addiction, as well as sleep, your overall satisfaction with your life, stress, perceived wellness, and supportive relationships. So I noticed that I was not only getting lower stress, but I was improving my relationships with people in my life. And when I was at work too, reflecting back to work, I was on whenever I would spend my breaks, I would usually just use my break doom scrolling while I eat my lunch. And I noticed that instead of that, I could spend that 30-minute lunch, not just on my phone, but rather doing my homework, studying, or just talking to my coworkers and just building those relationships with them. And this is a timeline of my 7 days, and I feel like I improved so much as not just a student, a worker, but also a friend. I felt like I was a better friend towards my good friend Andrew and also my coworkers. I was less distracted at work and less distracted with my schoolwork. And whenever I went to my anatomy and physiology class at 8 in the morning, I wasn't spending most of my morning just on my phone. I was actually getting up, getting ready, and utilizing my time better. And so with these improvements that I got over just 7 days, it made me think, what could I get over a lifetime? So on the 7th day, which was March 1st, I made the final decision to download all the apps one last time. I went on my settings and I eradicated my profiles. I deleted my accounts, I deactivated my Twitter, and I did everything possible to get rid of those accounts. And so this brings me to the question, if 7 days could do this much for me, I want to ask you, what could 1 week do for you? Thank you.